the difference between a site where you've got trade union organisation and if the shop stewards continually go into management with issues of safety, and the management here, we're pleased to say, immediately deal with it. But where you get a job which is full of the lump, where they're working in small units, the men are literally working for a small employer, then they're a law unto themselves. They don't care whether there's a toe board missing from here or a handrail missing up there. That means work to replace it. And their attitude is, well, that's not my job, that's somebody else's. Let me get on with the job of earning a lump sum payment, you see. And of course, the whole situation of safety deteriorates where the lump labour is operating. And I'll give you an example of that. You see, we've got, in the building industry, more than a death a day. More than a death a day. It's literally a bloodbath. We have 30,000 registered accidents a year, and last year there was over 200 deaths. Last year, there was just under 30,000 registered accidents. But of course, this isn't the overall total, because the thousands of workers who work self-employed and on the lump, they don't register accidents on the job, which means that the sum total is far in excess of this. Now, I'll give you an idea of what accidents take place. For instance, take the scaffold here. If there's no safety rail, if there's no toe board, the safety rail is obviously to stop anybody going over, right? The toe board is for the purpose of stopping anybody slipping and rolling over the side. Now then, also, it stops material. Now, you'll note the material along the scaffold. It means, in effect, that any one of the lads could kick a brick over the top, or a tool or anything like that, and the lad below could be hit, you see. Well, that's in the majority of cases. If it lands on an unprotected head, it means death. Now then, these are only one of the hundreds of hazards that are on a building site. And that's why it's important for not only strong trade union organisation, but vigilant trade union organisation, in order to see to it that everything is in order. Now then, of course, the employers do not agree with trade union organisation in the building industry. They pay lip service to it, because if they can cut corners on the safety regulations, they can save themselves literally thousands of pounds on a single job.
And of course, the other thing you have is, I mean, if you're up 200 or 300 feet in the air, the employer still expects the same amount of production as you would on the ground level. And of course, there are greater dangers up there. The wind, for example, rain, snow and ice, all the different conditions affect building workers.
Well, there was 2,358 lads killed in this industry in the last 10 years. Now, one of them was recently killed only 3 weeks ago before Christmas. Working in a tower crane. The tower crane collapses, and when we inspect it, we find that one of the main staunches has been defective, if not weeks, months. So therefore, there hasn't been a regular safety inspection. But the point that I want to emphasise is that her widow, in making a claim for compensation, she'll have to fight tooth and nail against the insurance companies, and the maximum the firm can receive in fines for negligence is £100. And that's what it's worth to a building trade worker. That's what his life's worth, £100.
We knew that we had quite a problem concerning the strike. We knew that we had 2/3 of the industry that weren't in the trade union movement, and we knew that we had one hell of a problem on our hands. In the North Wales area, they had more than the task of other areas, because they had a very uneven share of lumpers and non-unionists, etc., and a very sparse on the ground as regards to active trade unionists. So the number of active trade unions being that small the strain was tremendous. This was the start of the flying pickets in the North Wales area, and if you like, this was the start of all the events leading up to the Shrewsbury 24 lads being finally convicted.
We went on coaches, we went on cars, up and down North Wales. Some sites we'd meet blokes, we'd pull them off there, we'd then go around to another site the next day, and we'd see them there, you know, and we'd pull them off again. There was some persistent, but in the main, a lot of them came off. There was never any trouble.
I think that point Bob's making there, there was quite a number of lumpers in the area, and they'd been out on strike at the request of the stewards. And I say at the request because, you know, if anyone who knows anything about the industry knows that you can't go and drag people off against their will. If we could have done this, by the way, we're not apologising, because if we could have done this, we'd have had better conditions for them many, many years ago. But the fact was that you just can't pull people off against their will.
The only time we had any trouble was on a couple of sites. One site in particular was up at the top side of Hollywood, site in Brentford to be exact, where the lads approached the site. The agent came out with his camera first of all, and the lads said, well, just put that away. Anyway, they took the camera off him. Next thing we knew, he'd gone back into the house and came out with a shotgun. Now obviously we had to act very quickly, because if someone's got a shotgun pointed at you, don't know what the hell's in it. Anyway, we managed to get the gun off him, and on further examination we found that the cartridge inside, the buckshot had been taken out and had been filled up with grain. Now according to people who know a bit about a gun, if that had gone off, and he'd all intentions of using it because he made that statement, this could have blinded people or disfigured them something terrible. This was reported to the police, and they said it would be taken further. But up to date, and that's going back 16 months, nothing whatsoever has been done about it.
Having gone round these particular sites, the police had quite an easy task, because all they had to do, in fact, was follow the particular flying pickets, which they did do. The police went round, escorted them from site to site, and at no time made any arrests whatsoever.
After the strike, a call went out from the National Federation of Building Trade Employers in here to all the members to help them compile a dossier on the flying pickets. Then the employers brought pressure to bear on the Home Secretary through backbench Tory MPs to arrest the 24 Shrewsbury building workers and make an example of them.
There's nothing wrong with the law. The real problem is one of enforcement. Following the disturbing evidence of intimidation from many areas during the national building strike, I intend, once again, to draw the attention of my chief constables to the provisions of the law and discuss with them what further action they might take.
But 3 months after the end of the strike, the police started making inquiries, and none of our brothers were taken down to the local police station and were held there for 4 to 5 hours, interrogated in various ways. Some were threatened that when they finally got the charge sheet out, it would read worse than that of the Cray twins. When they finally did come for me, they'd have a charge ready for me, which would probably land me in jail for the minimum 2 years and probably up to life, you know, what I just laughed.
The key incident, which was made the excuse for the trial, occurred on a McAlpine site in Telford. The High Sheriff of Denbighshire and controller of the police force which brought the charges is a McAlpine's director and Sir Alfred McAlpine's son-in-law, Peter Bell. Sir Alfred McAlpine is himself a past High Sheriff of the county. This house in North Wales goes with the job.
I am satisfied that you were the leaders and the prime movers in the invasion of these sites. You took part in violence. You encouraged violence. I regard you as arrogant, vicious, and prepared to impose your views on others by violence if need be. You have the power of speech and the power of leadership, which you apparently use to ill purpose. You thought you could flout the law. You were wrong.
My husband states that if you use violence, you can't expect the backing of the men. And yet the judge pronounced him a violent and a vicious man, which to my mind is pure spite, viciousness on his part, because he had no proof of it at all. He didn't know Dennis from Adam. But if they're allowed to get away with this now, and these men remain in jail, there's not much future for our children when they start work, because there isn't going to be a trade union. And without a trade union, we'll become, as we are fast becoming now, a fascist state. This is supposed to be a democracy, a democratic country. And as a democratic country, how can my husband be a criminal because he spoke up for his rights and the rights of his fellow men? It just isn't true, is it? It isn't a democratic country at all. There's no such thing as freedom of speech. Not here. And not now. It's awe-inspiring, really, having never had anything to do with prisons before. I don't think I've even taken a second glance at a prison before. The clanging gates and keys and being shown through several doors before you eventually get to the appointed meeting place. It's very difficult to speak to your husband surrounded by policemen and guards and other prisoners and their wives and families.
It's made us change our minds about the government. I never dreamt that such a thing would happen. The case was political, definitely political, because the start of the trial, there was at least 1,000 policemen all around the court. Yeah. And when we went around the back to park our car, there must have been 15 or 20 policemen with dogs around the back. So it has to be a political case, otherwise there wouldn't be so much police knocking around.
Dad wanted to go in, and his uncle was with us, but they wouldn't let only one. And yet when we got in the court, there was plenty of seats. Well, there was more policemen than, you know.
The court was full of police inside.
Full of police.
There was a conspiracy up there. There was a conspiracy on this issue, but it was with Edward Heath, Robert Carr, and the police, and that is my belief, and nothing will ever alter that on my mind. All he has good mates. All the lads from this area are solid, like, behind them, you know, all the contractors. But it's other parts of the country that may not know what's transpired, because without you dealing with these things, you wouldn't believe that such things happen.
Every building worker in the country has had a rise in their wages through this strike and the picketing, and I hope that they'll stand by these boys and get them released.
My son has got doing 9 months jail for peaceful picketing, done no wrong in our eyes, done nobody any harm, done no destructive nothing or done any harm to anyone. All he has done is distributed 10 shillings per man on the sites for a bag of chips and a packet of cigarettes. It's as simple as that. No, you've got anything to add to that, haven't you?
No, my son's been wrongly convicted.
First, the purpose of this demonstration is to publicise the situation that 3 of our lads are faced with in jail. Secondly, to point out that there are another 8 now on trial and another 10 pending trial. 3 lads were done on conspiracy, unlawful assembly, and on them 2 points, may I say this? On conspiracy, you had your democratic rights stripped away from you. That's the citizens of this nation. Because this meeting, or any other meeting, can be classified by the legal beavers as a conspiracy. Secondly, on the question of unlawful assembly, every picket line, every group of workers can now be picked off by the legal board on the basis of unlawful assembly. Third, on the subject matter, causing an affair. That is a simple one. Stick an agent provocateur in the trade union movement from the special branch, or receiving their advice from the influx of the CIA into this country. It'll not be the agent provocateur that is charged. It will be the leader, the shop steward of the given group of workers. They will try to behead the movement. And this is what the Shrewsbury trial is all about.
The sentence passed at Shrewsbury is a challenge and threat to the whole Labour movement. It does mean that in future, any workers that get involved in industrial disputes, strikes, future pickets, are all liable to be brought before the law courts. They're liable to have similar sentences passed against them. They're liable to end up in the same jails as what the lads are from the building workers' dispute in 1972. Therefore, this is a challenge to the whole Labour movement. Building workers are obviously the guinea pigs and are being used to intimidate and frighten you other workers, and we call upon you to see this as a threat to you as well as to us, to join in our fight to release these lads, to join in the fight to ensure that the lads are not only released but all charges are dropped against them. That in itself is a victory. But we have to go one further, and that is we must demand that the 1875 Conspiracy Act is removed and not allowed to be used against trade unionists involved in struggle.
Six working men in prison bound is a sentence on us all. The chains are tightening round us and our backs are to the wall.
Oh, the road is long, we've got to be strong, the battle is underway.
In the past our brothers and sisters fought for the right to organise. Will we let them steal those rights away before our very eyes?
Oh, the road is long, we've got to be strong, the battle is underway.
When you were on a 3-day week and struggling to survive, did you let them screw the work from you that once you did in 5?
Oh, the road is long, we've got to be strong, the battle is underway.
The miners, they are steadfast, for their lead we give our thanks, that they only gained a victory with the support of other ranks.
Oh, the road is long, we've got to be strong, the battle is underway.
And support is what is needed, so the lads are doing time. Will we let them stay there one more
Oh, the road is long, we've got to be strong, the battle is underway.
It's time the chains were broken by the strength of unity. The prison doors are bolted, but the workers hold the key.
Oh, the road is long, we've got to be strong, the battle is underway.